There's a long-awaited buff to rocket launchers coming in Season 13 of Destiny 2, and that is due to kick off on February the 9th. So swords are also getting nerfed, and rockets are likely to come into the foreground once again, having been on this shelf for a long time concerning power weapons. So today, I'm going to have a look at some of the best rocket launchers in Destiny 2 right now, and some you should be looking out for in Season 13. So if you like this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below for all the latest Destiny 2 content and turn on notifications by hitting that bell. So last week, Bungie explained some buffs are coming to rocket launchers in Season 13, which include they're going to increase rocket launcher damage by 30%, which is pretty good. Exotic rocket launchers have been adjusted individually and are going to be affected by this change to different degrees. And paired with the buffs to reserves from last season, we're hoping you'll explode many more things in Season 13. They also said rocket launchers have fallen behind other heavy weapons in most measures of effectiveness, and they're pushing them to be more of a burst damage role. So I think the key thing there is the 30% increase in damage, and that's going to be across the board, but interestingly, exotic rocket launchers are going to be adjusted individually. And we're going to have to wait and see until the season starts on February the 9th, 2021 to see the extent of those changes. So this buff to rocket launchers comes alongside the nerf to swords, with Bungie also saying last week, so swords are extremely dominant in PvE, and at this time 65% of players are using swords for a majority of gameplay encounters in Destiny 2. And while we're introducing a buff to rocket launchers to make them a bit more enticing, we feel that swords do too much damage compared to other options, and they're going to reduce the sword damage by about 15%. So hopefully what this all adds up to is now rockets are going to be much more viable as power weapons across both PvE and PvP activities. Well, that's the buffs and the nerfs explained. So next up, let's have a look at some of the best rocket launchers in the game right now, as well as a couple to look out for coming back next season as reissued weapons. So first up, we've got Deathbringer, and Deathbringer is an exotic power rocket launcher. And this one's got some really interesting perks. So Dark Deliverance fires remotely detonated projectiles that drop void orbs on combatants. So you fire and then release to detonate. And we've also got Dark Descent. The further a void orb falls, the more powerful its detonation becomes. So really interesting. This one came out in Shadowkeep, but didn't really make waves because rocket launchers weren't really in a good spot at the time. But to get this one, you can pick it up from the exotic kiosk in the tower, and you want to just look for the Shadowkeep exotic section. Kind of interesting, this one, especially with those void orbs. It'd be interesting to see how the buff to the damage affects those void orbs that drop from Deathbringer. It does take a little bit of practice getting used to this one, but it is really fun, and I'd definitely give it a go. Next up, we've got the Shining Sphere, and the Shining Sphere is a legendary power rocket launcher, and it's got an adaptive frame, meaning it has a well-rounded grip, it's reliable and it's sturdy. So for PvP, quick draw and snapshot sights are always good for rocket launchers, whereas PvE for this one, field prep and demolitionist would be a decent role. So to get this one, it is a random drop from the end of Iron Banner matches, or when you turn in tokens to Lord Saladin after the main quest is done. So what you'll have to do is wait until Lord Saladin comes back to the tower for the next Iron Banner, but Shining Sphere is definitely up there as one of the best rocket launchers in the game right now. Next up, we've got TwoTailed Fox, and TwoTailed Fox is another exotic power rocket launcher. And this one is quite unique because it shoots two rockets. It shoots both solar and void rockets together. We've got a couple of interesting perks here. We've got Twin Tails, so it shoots two rockets, one void and one solar, as I mentioned, and they track onto the same target. Then we've got Play with Your Prey, so the void rocket suppresses enemies, and the solar rocket causes damage over time. So really good, this one. This one came out originally in Forsaken, and again, rockets have not really been in a good place. Rockets haven't been in a good place since Destiny 1, to be fair. Hopefully, with this 30% damage buff, rockets are going to be back. Well, to get this one, you can buy it from Xur at the weekend when he's around, or it's a random drop from exotic engrams. Next up, we've got SubZero Salvo, and SubZero Salvo is a legendary power rocket launcher, which is a precision frame this time, meaning the weapon fires a semi-auto tracking missile, and the missiles lock onto targets when aimed. So for PvE, you can get Chain Reaction and Ambitious Assassin, and Chain Reaction is a really good one. It's a new perk in Beyond Light, where each final blow with the weapon creates an elemental damage explosion. And another good combo for PvE might be Cluster Bombs and Quick Draw, So if you didn't get that gold roll, then keep an eye out for that one too. The most popular combination for this weapon at the moment is Chain Reaction and Ambitious Assassin. So to get this weapon, you can get it from the campaign in Beyond Light, and you are going to need access to Beyond Light to get this weapon because it's one of the Europa set. You can also get it from Varax's targeted weapon quests. To be able to pick those up, you have to complete Europan Explorer 1 on Varax's sabotage menu. Then you can purchase the quest in exchange for 30 Here Always pieces. All you need to do then is complete the objectives, head back to Varax and pick up the SubZero Salvo. Next up, we've got Bad Omens, and Bad Omens is a legendary power rocket launcher. It's an aggressive frame, meaning high damage and high recoil. This one's been around for a while, but for PvE, so tracking plus cluster bombs would be a really good role. And for PvP, snapshot sights and quick draw is always a good role for rockets in PvP. This one is a random drop from activities, so there is no sure way to get this one, but look out for it at the end of strikes, Crucible Gambit or ranking up at vendors. So finally, my top pick for rocket launchers for next season is the Wardcliffe Coil. And the Wardcliffe Coil is an exotic power rocket launcher. It's got some really useful perks, including Mad Scientist. So this one fires a volley of rockets. And we've got Mechanized Autoloader. So this weapon automatically reloads on ammo pickup. So really, really good weapon. This one can be picked up from Xur, or it's a random world drop exotic weapon. So Wardcliffe Coil, really, really effective in both PvE and PvP. You almost guarantee to kill in PvP, and that shows because it's up there at the top of the rocket launcher charts for competitive PvP. So we do also have a couple of rocket launchers coming back next season. We've got Heretic and we've got Sleepless too, so they're going to be ones to look out for. So there's an interesting point that Bungie mentioned a few weeks ago in their This Week at Bungie update. So they said weapons that drop from Pit of Heresy and Shattered Throne Dungeon can roll with perks that are unavailable from other reward sources. So it's not clear at the moment if these are going to be new perks or what these perks will be, but I definitely think it's worth keeping an eye on rocket launcher drops from dungeons next season. So you're going to be able to get the Heretic out of the Pit of Heresy, and you'll be able to get Sleepless out of Shattered Throne. So some others that are worth shouting out are Eyes of Tomorrow, and that one you can get from the Deepstone Crypt raid. We've got Truth, that is another exotic rocket launcher, so also really good. And Tomorrow's Answer from Trials of Osiris is another good choice, plus you've always got the Adept version if you can get hold of that. So currently in PvE, Eyes of Tomorrow is the most popular choice with 0.5% of the audience. You've got Bad Omens is 0.2 and Truth is 0.1. In PvP, Wardcliffe Coil is the most popular choice at 1.2%, Tomorrow's Answer at 0.7%, and then again Bad Omens at 0.5%. So Bad Omens, SubZero Salvo and Shining Sphere, they consistently show up in the PvP and PvE top 10 lists, plus they're nice and easy to get hold of. Really interesting though, look at the stats there. You've got 0.5% of the audience is the most popular PvE rocket launcher. 0.5% just goes to show why Bungie want more people to use rocket launchers, because they're basically a really underwhelming power weapon at the moment. I definitely think that is going to change next season. Before I go, I did want to highlight the Charge with Light mod Argent Ordnance. Once activated, Argent Ordnance promises dealing damage to powerful combatants, gives you a major increase to rocket damage for a short time, consuming 1 stack of Charge with Light. So when you are Charged with Light, you'll see a buff called Godslayer Warheads active, so you know it's time to fire off those rockets. So across the board, Argent Ordnance gives about a 20% buff to rockets, which isn't too bad, but it's not going to set the world on fire. But when paired with this new 30% buff that we're going to get next season, I definitely think rockets are going to be really, really noticeable. If you can get your hands on the Argent Ordnance Charge with Light mod, I definitely think it's worth pairing up with a rocket next season. Well, let me know down in the comments what you think of the rockets buff, and if this is going to be enough to bring you back to using rockets in Destiny 2. And also, let me know down in the comments what rocket launchers you're using, and if you've got any preferences. Well, that is it for this guide on the best rocket launchers in Destiny 2, and as always, thank you so much for watching. For more Destiny 2 content like this, hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to This Week in Video Games. If you want to join the community, check out the Discord link in the description. Or you can follow me on Twitter at TWIVG Podcast. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, liking and sharing the video would really help me out. Otherwise, check out the other videos on the channel. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.